An electric vehicle battery maker goes bankrupt and Connect Transit has nowhere to turn.
Quite honestly, public transit has always been kind of the R&D arm of the federal government when it comes to new technologies.
EV buses taken off the road, coming up on WGLT's Sound Ideas. Good evening, I'm John Norton. Also on today's show, a new event combines live music and art making in Bloomington.
That's the inspiration at the heart of it, is just try to get artists to actually form a community here and create things together.
And a Bloomington Black History essay contest winner recalls the murder of Emmett Till.
It's going on 2024 and this baby still deserves justice. Everybody needs to see and look at what they did to this baby.
Those stories coming up after a Bloomington Normal News update. This is Sound Ideas on 89.1 WGLT and WGLT.org, part of the NPR network.
Support for WGLT comes from Bloomington Normal Audiology. Hear My Story continues with local patients Ralph and Carol Weisheit.
Why do people wait? We don't wait when we can't see. We get glasses. So why don't you get a hearing aid? Because, you miss out on so much.
Ralph and Carol's full story can be found at bnaudiology.com.
From the campus of Illinois State University in Normal, this is WGLT's news magazine, Sound Ideas. I'm John Norton. Connect Transit has had to reduce peak service for its most popular fixed routes several times in the last few years. First, there was a bus driver shortage. Now it's an actual bus shortage. The transit agency has a fleet of 12 electric-powered vehicles. All but one have been taken off the road for various problems. They either need new parts, repairs from an accident, or a computer malfunction. And they can't get parts because its electric battery manufacturer, Proterra, filed for bankruptcy last year. General Manager David Brown tells WGLT's Eric Stock Proterra's problems reflect a larger issue with the emerging EV technology, and it could be many more months before the problem is resolved.
I would say that we're still working through it. So another company has purchased Proterra, a company called Phoenix EV. Phoenix is now establishing component manufacturing agreements. So we have not gotten the parts distribution yet. We think probably within the next 6 months to a year, that parts distribution will be complete. But they are still working through some of the issues, and we're just facing it. So we get the buses rolling as we can, and we hope that hopefully by the end of this year, most of the buses will be back on the street.
So what does that mean, get it rolling? How do you do that on your end?
That's the challenge, because if we can't buy parts, this is a unique bus. It was built, for this purpose. It's not like going to a Ford dealership and picking up a part that's readily available. Mm-hmm. That part was built for this bus, and if they don't have distribution agreements with the other manufacturers, then we can't get those parts. So some of the issues are also computer related. So what's different in a big bus versus like a car is everything goes through that computer. Everything from the video system to the CAD AVL, everything that we have goes through that central brain. And if they don't communicate well, that means that brain isn't functioning properly. So a lot of time is spent just engineering some of those code issues on the bus. It's basically a rolling computer.
How many vehicles do you have that would have been serviced by Proterra, and how many need service or parts now?
We have a total of 12 vehicles. Of those, I believe 5 need parts. Others are computer equipment, and some are just some accident repairs.
So how are you able to manage that, keep the fleet up while you've got 5 sidelined?
We had the foresight to have a contingency fleet. So we do have some additional buses that we didn't plan on running for much longer, but we are currently running 21-year-old vehicles, the 2003 vehicles that we were hoping to replace with these electric buses.
So how long before you'll be able to get to peak service with the entire fleet running at full capacity?
Back in January, we actually reduced our fixed route service during the peak. Last year we did it for lack of drivers. We were able to get that under control by increasing the starting wage and some other benefits. So now we have a full complement of drivers, but now it's a bus issue. So we ran full peak service until January. We recently reduced it, and that's what we're proposing to continue into next year. and then shifting those additional hours to mobility and Connect Flex in the future.
But you're able to meet the demand that you plan to keep forward for the foreseeable future at this point.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we don't anticipate having to reduce any more service.
I know there have been a lot of reports in the media about Proterra and some problems they were having. Was there any way that Connect Transit could have possibly pivoted at some point, or were you already stuck in this deal? We are. Let me see how to best frame this. So we had 12 already ordered. Mm-hmm. We have 5 more on order now, and we have agreement for 5 additional ones. So those are stalled right now as we're looking at our options. So as far as pivoting, as you know, we get most of our funding for buses from the federal government. So we have to ask permission. When somebody writes you a check and expects you to buy something and you choose to buy something else, we need to get their permission to do that. And are there any other suppliers out there?
There are some suppliers of electric buses, but it's a fairly immature industry. So, we're hoping that every electric bus manufacturer has had its issues, and Proterra had nothing to do with the electric bus as much as it had to do with its funding stream. The way that the feds pay is, we put in an order, and the order takes 18 months to build, and then the feds pay after that sometimes. So it could be 2 years but that they have to carry a carrying charge. So that really impacted Proterra being a new bus company that only sold electric. The diesel manufacturers who also sold electric, New Flyer and Gillig, those are kind of the 2 main manufacturers. Both of those have had some issues as well. So as far as electric vehicles, there's nowhere to pivot. Right now we're evaluating what our next steps are.
Is that a red flag for the industry as this emerging technology eventually becomes mainstream in the transportation industry in general and in public transportation specifically, that they're not able to get fully funded to help operations like Connect Transit do what you're service to do?
The industry is actually looking at that and working very closely with the federal government to resolve that. So everything from progress payments, the FDA never allowed us to do progress payments necessarily, and now they're willing to allow us to do stages, milestone payments. So rather than waiting until the bus is delivered to pay, we could actually pay based on how much of the bus has been built to date. So things like the battery would be purchased first, certain other components along the way, so that they're not holding the cost of that battery for 24 months or plus.
So it kind of sounds like it starts with the federal government and their money, and it flows downstream from there. Is that where this all got out of whack?
I think for Proterra, that's exactly where it got out of whack. Yeah, and quite honestly, public transit has always been kind of the R&D arm of the federal government when it comes to new technologies. So I think what they're doing, the investment that they're making in public transit, is to work out these bugs in electric vehicles so that then it can be better commercialized. So I think in the future, I don't think electric vehicles are going away as much as we're learning, we're putting those dollars or that education back into the manufacturing process, and then future manufacturing will be much more stable.
Connect Transit General Manager David Brown says the transit agency is still in the midst of a study on how to simplify its rate structure and plans to modernize its fare boxes. He says the current card swipe system occasionally malfunctions and is less user-friendly than a card tap-and-go system. Brown spoke with WGLT's Eric Stock. Coming up tomorrow on Sound Ideas, we recognize many of the women who have helped shape Bloomington Normal through their advocacy. That could include everything from feeding the hungry to helping newcomers find refuge to battling discrimination. You'll hear their stories as part of WGLT's Women's History Month series. That's tomorrow on Sound Ideas.
The price of homeowners insurance is increasing due to climate risks and inflation. How that affects the housing market, next time on Marketplace.
Listen to Marketplace beginning at 5:30 this afternoon on WGLT, sponsored by CEFCU.
The actor and comedian Rami Youssef says raw feelings have lingered in the Muslim American community ever since 9/11.
Rawness can also be an opportunity to actually move past certain things now feels like an opportunity to actually heal.
Rama Youssef on life and politics tomorrow on Morning Edition from NPR News. This is Steve Inskeep. Listen to Morning Edition weekdays from 4 to 9 a.m. on WGLT.
This is Sound Ideas on WGLT. I'm John Norton. The inaugural Derp Fest kicks off this weekend, combining live music and live art making at Hanger Art Company in downtown Bloomington. WGLT's Lauren Warnicki met with Derp Fest organizer Daniel DeGerald and participating artist Rico DeBrava, better known as Arnote, to learn more about this new art party. DeGerald grew up in Peoria. He moved to Bloomington Normal in 2019 to attend art school at ISU. He says he didn't find the community he was looking for at ISU, so DerpFest is an attempt to cultivate one.
That's the inspiration at the heart of it, is just try to get artists to actually form a community here and create things together.
Artists have 48 hours to paint an original work at Hanger Art Company, with musical acts performing between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. The results will be auctioned off on Sunday. A portion of those returns are donated to Illinois Art Station. Bloomington Normal is flush with galleries and artist coalitions.
Some people might say that, but that's just one artist group. And there's other artist groups that are not getting representation, I believe. And that's what I've been trying to do.
As a mixed media artist and painter interested in large scale works, DeGerald has fewer places to display his stuff. He's in the process of securing a wall at the 410 Sculpture Park, which has been in development under the Main Street Bridge. And Hanger Art Company is one enterprise that embraces big pieces because they have the real estate to do it and leans into new and countercultural forms.
There's plenty of artists that I know that don't get the academic gallery respect, recognition, and that's just because that's who's putting on the show.
Most of all, what DeGerald is looking for is a vibe.
I'll partake in anybody's vibe. I'm down to come to your art gallery show.
So it's not about a particular vibe, just a vibe in general.
It's my vibe. I can come hang out at your party, but you're the one throwing the party, so you get to set the tone. This is my party. I get to set the tone.
Arnote creates digital animation using an iPad, but for DerpFest, they're planning to paint. Main difference being you can't erase on a canvas.
It is convenient that you get to erase digital art easily, but when I'm painting with a canvas and I make a mistake, I consider it a happy little accident, and I put the mistake in as part of the finished piece.
Sage advice on loan from Bob Ross.
My art professors used to actually point out that some of the flaws in my art had interesting meanings behind them, and at the time I would be like, only you can find hidden meanings in a screw-up.
And who wants art that's actually totally 100% perfect? It doesn't really
exactly.
exist, right?
I mean, the flaws
Nobody.
The flaws make it more valuable, right? If you wanted a perfect painting, you just get an AI artist creator to do it.
I wouldn't say that.
Well, no, yeah. If you just want a perfectly clean slate, perfect painting, you can just get an AI thing to create it. But if you want, the quote, flaws, only you know how to take advantage of the flaws.
Arnote also creates something called plant music.
I have a MIDI controller that connects to digital instruments, and you connect it to plants with these electrode clips, and it plays notes off of the plant's energy. It's called a plant wave. Nature is a common theme in my art.
Like DeGerald, Arnote likes being in community with other artists. They typically paint and draw with music on in the background, so they're not concerned about all the distractions that will be at DerpFest.
What distractions? Don't you dare call art a distraction.
I just mean some people like to make their art in solitude, right? With quiet, standing by a window, looking at birds or whatever.
Well,
but this
okay,
is gonna...
most of the time I draw by myself in my room. But on rare occasions, I have drawn in public spaces like the park or at a restaurant.
But what about the name, DerpFest? That word originates from South Park creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone and has been seen in Rage comics and other corners of the internet. It's used in memes as a stand-in for duh or dirt, or in the Midwest, of course, ope. And for DeGerald, it's just a nothing burger. It's a placeholder.
It's a meaningless word. It means nothing. People try to put labels on art all the time. Art is an expression, and art is a language, and it's a way of channeling things in your brain, whatever you're thinking, that you can't put into words. And there's things that nobody can put into words that people can put into art.
That was Derpfest organizer Daniel DeGerald. You also heard from visual artist and electronic music maker Rico DeBrava, a.k.a. Arnote, speaking with WGLT's Lauren Warnicki. Derpfest is free and open to the public all weekend. Headliners Without a Trace and Hannah and the Sweet Nothings play Friday from 6 to 10. That'll be at the Hangar Art Company. Saturday is EDM night from 5 to 10. The live auction starts at 1 on Sunday afternoon. Proceeds from all sales are split 50-50 between the artists and Illinois Art Station.
Support for arts and culture coverage on WGLT comes from PNC Financial Services. PNC is committed to supporting local arts and culture events in the communities they serve.
Wouldn't it be great if there was a podcast to catch up on Bloomington Normal news, but it was short, so you could listen while making breakfast or exercising or driving to work, so you could hear the biggest McLean County story of the day, some headlines and the day's calendar, then get on with your day feeling informed? Well, that's WGLT's The Leadoff. I'm host Ryan Denham. Subscribe to our weekday morning podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Sound Ideas on WGLT. One of the winners of this year's City of Bloomington Black History Essay Contest is Heavenly Henderson O'Brien. That's a ninth grader at Normal West High School. All this week, we're hearing the school children who wrote the winning essays read their work. Henderson O'Brien tells a famous story, a horrible story of racial violence, and a story she believes must not be forgotten. Note, this reading includes graphic descriptions of violence and bleeped out racial epithets.
This is the story of Emmett Till. Emmett was a 14-year-old boy, and he lived with his mother, Mammy Till. They were a happy mother and son, but his mother was really scared of Emmett going too far from where she was. She did not like what was going on in society, but Emmett was a very brave boy and bright. He would brighten up a room with a smile, but what happened next will change a whole generation. Emmett and his mom were going to the store to get him a new wallet. Emmett was not the type to do any harm to anybody. The mindset Emmett had was so happy. He was ready to go to Mississippi and see his aunts, his uncles, and his cousins. So his mom took him shopping to take with him. His mom warned him that some people in Mississippi are not all that nice. And so Emmett tried his best to be a good kid. The next morning, Emmett was getting up on the train. Before he got on, he gave his mother his ring to keep it safe for him when he got home. And nobody thought that Emmett's last words would be "I love you" to his mama. But Emmett kissed her goodbye and got on the train. His mama prayed and cried while the train was pulling off that her son would be okay. A couple hours later, Emmett arrived in Mississippi. Emmett was so excited to see his family, so they took him to the house before they all went to work, and Emmett got settled. They went to their job and picked crops and earned their money. Emmett thought it was boring, but he made the best out of it. Made his cousins laugh. After they were done, they went to the store to get some candy. They told Emmett to sit outside, and they wouldn't take long. Emmett got bored. He went in there to buy a pack of bubble gum, and he walked up to the counter and he saw a beautiful lady. Emmett told the white lady that she looked like a superstar, and the lady was scared of the boy for no reason. But that was just racism back then. His cousins walked in to see her going to get a gun, and they all ran out. Before that happened, Emmett whistled at the lady. They sped home as fast as they could. So they went in the house, went straight to sleep without a word. Emmett and his cousin slept in the bed together, and they woke up in the middle of the night to his uncle screaming from pain in his heart. And his aunt was saying, "I'm sorry, he's not from around here." They tried to fake sleep, but the two white men caught them and told Emmett to get out of bed and get his stuff. And they put him in a truck and held him down. And the husband, Roy Bryant, and his brother-in-law, J.W. Millam, they said, "Is this the a strong word that means a lot to people?" And his wife, Caroline Bryant, said yes. And they drove off and took him to the shed and beat him and raped him and cut his penis off and his ears and beat his body really, really bad. A black man heard it all, and they blew his brains out and hung him to a wire and put his body in the Tallahatchie River. And they left, and his mother was going home having a cigarette with her friends, and she got a call saying Emmett was taken, and his mama broke down crying. The next morning, she was heading down to Mississippi, and she started planning the funeral, and she wanted to show the world what they did to her poor baby's body. He was beaten, his face was huge. You couldn't recognize him. You couldn't recognize the person that he was. It's going on 2024, and this baby still deserves justice. Everybody needs to see and look at what they did to this baby. He was murdered, and he needs justice till this day. So does his mother. My name is Heavenly, and this is my story.
That's Heavenly Henderson O'Brien, a 15-year-old ninth grader at Normal Community West High School. Henderson O'Brien is the second place winner in the high school division of this year's City of Bloomington Black History Essay Contest. Listen all this week during Sound Ideas to hear students read their essays. WGLT's Charlie Schlenker produced this reading. And that's Sound Ideas today. WGLT's news magazine is made possible in part by Bloomington Normal Audiology. I'm John Norton. Story help came from WGLT's Eric Stock, Lauren Warnicki, and Charlie Schlenker. Ryan Toohey edits the show. This is 89.1 WGLT and WGLT.org, part of the NPR network.